Welcome back to Locked On Sports Atlanta. It's our ATL Hangout here on this Friday on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On ATL. I'm at Mark Zinno. He's at Jarvis Davis 90. J Davis 90.
Jarvis D90, Mr.
Jarvis
Zinno,
D90. I'm
to
so
you.
close. I just know your picture, so I follow you. Same. And Tanisha, where are you on Twitter?
Yeah, I make it easier for everybody at Tanisha Batiste.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. That's what I
you
thought.
trying to say, T?
I know. You make life difficult. That's what happens when you're the boss. You have to make life difficult. All right. Speaking of difficult,
We go there.
Anyway,
Okay.
this segment brought to you by our friends at Coffee AM. But speaking of difficult, Falcons have a difficult task in front of them this year. Look, and I don't know that the expectations have to be grand for this team. I do think they may surprise some people. I'm hoping they're more competitive than people think, but particularly on the defensive side of the ball, because Arthur Smith, I think we understand his offensive prowess and where he is. But on the defensive side of the ball, last year there was a lot of square peg, round hole scenarios for Dean Pease, particularly with a guy like Deion Jones and several other players. But we heard them say this offseason that Dean Pease finally has the pieces that he is comfortable with. Now, that doesn't mean that these are high-level, high-talented pieces, but they are the pieces that he feels fits better with his scheme this year than he has last year. So, Jarvis, the question is, what does that translate to, and what are the results that we can expect to see?
I think that I'm going to go on the record and say that they will be better, but I think it's just a matter of – but like I said, it's nowhere from up, right?
They were last year.
18 sacks, 18
sacks
last year. Yeah, it's only up from there. You know what I mean? When it comes to, it's that gradual progress, and Dean Pease talking about him running 100% of his defense versus 60%, and a lot of people acting like it is breaking news, but he talked about this throughout the season. He just didn't want to throw his guys all the way under the bus.
Yes.
And, he knew that he didn't have as much as he needed to work with to be able to put out a formidable defense on Sundays at 1:00. But I think that just from where they are is from a free agency standpoint, they brought in Lorenzo Carter. I like that. I thought that was a solid pickup, and I think that the drafting of Arnold Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone, who I think is going to be a sneaky good guy for the Falcons on 3rd and long this year. I just think from those additions alone, I think that you're looking at a defense that you're going to be able to call a little bit more plays. And even let's talk about the secondary as well, because you got Jalen Hawkins and Richie Grant vying for those starting spots. Of course, you got some veterans in there. Harris, they're sitting there chilling, waiting to pounce in. But I think that the most important move that I think that is one of the reasons why they will be better is because of Casey Hayward. Because we already know, I'm not going to mention dude's name from last year because it was just absolutely terrible what was going on that backside of the defense opposite A.J. Terrell last year. So I think the addition of Casey Hayward is going to help Pease be a little bit more aggressive in his play calling, because we know he likes to send from all levels when we didn't see that much, because once you send it from all levels and you're not getting to the quarterback and you can't play on that backside of the defense, you're in for long games, and that's exactly what we saw last year.
Deidre?
Well, Jarvis kind of called all of the defense out and what they needed to do, so I don't think there's a place for me to kind of give any more information. I think the only thing I have left, because he called out the secondary, he's called out the pass rush, is
all these
maybe
shots coming at me. What is going on today, T?
called out the whole defense. I'm like, every scheme, I don't think there's anything left for me. But I will say this. In addition to what Jarvis said, I feel like Grady's going to have at least a little bit more help up front. So maybe what you'll get is a little bit better run defense. So I'll give them something, to that regard. But I will go back into the secondary as well and say that in addition to what I do believe, to your point, will be a shored up secondary in A.J. Terrell and Casey Hayward, I also am interested in seeing not just what Dean Marlowe is going to be able to do for that safety core, but we talked about Isaiah Oliver coming back, and he really was starting to look good in that nickel package until he had that injury, and he's hungry. I spoke with him at open practice a couple weeks ago. He is hungry, and Dean Pease really feels like he's ready to go to that next level. But also, guys, there are people like Richie Grant. Let's just be real. Dean Pease tried not to call anybody out, but he kind of called him out a little bit, especially in the beginning of the season. And Richie got progressively better, but he's got a little chip on his shoulder. He's got something that he needs to prove. And then one more guy that we have been high on from day one, and he's just improved incrementally, is Jalen Hawkins. So wherever they try to fit him into his play for the secondary, I think that he'll be fine. Oh, and one more guy that I think, Mark, you would agree with us. has been like the question. All we can do is put a question mark on him is Marlon Davidson. Can he stay
Yeah.
healthy to
Yeah.
show us finally what he's made of? If he can, I do believe that's going to give the Falcons just a little bit more upfront to work with.
There's only one thing I'll say on Richie Grant. He is sort of the litmus test at this point in time for the quality of drafting and scouting of Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, right? Like, first round picks are easy to see whether they're good or bad. It's your second, third, fourth round picks, guys that you assume and you want to be starters in this league. Didn't. I mean, for years, the second round draft pick of the Falcons was always a stinker, whether it was Jalen, who's the kid from LSU?
Jalen Collins.
Jalen Collins, that's right. I was going to say Carter, but I know that wasn't it. You look at Marlon Davidson, all the second round picks that were bad guys.
Oliver.
Yeah, Isaiah. Well, hold on a second. See, now I think Oliver has a place here as a slot corner.
He's found a place, though.
He's found a place. Now, you can get slot corners in the fifth round. So that is he living up to second round billing? No, but if he's a viable starter on this team going forward, then you take it for what it's worth. That all said, I think Richie Grant is going to be a big litmus test. But I also think the one thing that I've focused on is, what do you hear defensive coordinators talk about so much? Limiting explosive plays, limiting big plays. Well, he's the guy that's got to keep the top on the defense, right? And if they can do that this year, if they can eliminate a bigger portion of the big plays that they gave up, I think they'll be a lot more competitive in games and a lot closer in games. All right, before we move on from the Falcons here, just a quick word from our good friends at Coffee AM. I don't know about you guys. I got that box in the mail, and when I opened the coffee hit me in
lit up the whole house.
Amazing. Coffee AM is an Atlanta-based small batch coffee roaster that brings coffee from around the world. I've had the coffee from Kenya. I tried Sumatra. I mean, all from all over the world. Organic, fair trade, direct trade, expertly crafted blends, espressos and flavored coffees, gourmet teas, and a whole lot more. You're going to love everything about Coffee AM. Why? Because it's so fresh. Most of the coffees are roasted and shipped the same day or close to it, and they're locally roasted right here in our backyard in Georgia. Check them out online at coffeeam.com, but you go to coffeeam.com/locked on today and take a look at their full menu of coffees, teas, and gift sets. That's coffeeam.com/locked on. Use the coupon code locked on at checkout to get 15% off your first order of coffees, teas, and gift sets. Coffee AM, the best small batch coffee roaster in America, and right here in our backyard. Okay, offensively for the Falcons. I have said this on A to Z. You guys may have heard it. Of course, everyone's a fan. I say that in jest.
Really?
Yeah. Everybody's a fan. I promise. I'll tell you anyway. That said, the only thing I'm not giving a pass to this year offensively is the number of targets thrown Kyle Pitts' way. Because in reality, you drafted him 2 years ago to much consternation of what was at need for the team and drafted a pass catcher. Granted, he may be a freak and an anomaly and a genetic, unicorn, if you will, given what he can do out on the football field. But all that, you threw him 110 balls last year with a quarterback and a team that wasn't going to be very good. You can't double down and draft another pass catcher a year in a row and then not throw them the ball. Right. So that's the only thing. And I believe Arthur Smith will, but for me, that's the only offensively, like the only measuring stick I have at this point in time is feed Kyle Pitts until you can't feed him no more.
Well, I'm glad that's the only one you have, because for me, I'm still looking at left shark and I need left shark to do better. So whether that's left shark Caleb McGarry, or whether that is somehow there's a, Justin Schaefer shows us something, coming in, like you said, maybe as a late pick, a sixth rounder, but he could be a possibility there. And for me, that's kind of where it kind of starts and stops, because I don't know. I just feel like with Caleb McGarry, like it's do or die, right? And really, it's that entire O line that
mostly die. It's mostly die. Let's be real. Yeah, it's mostly die.
Grim Reaper, Jarvis Davis.
Right. Well, I know, and like, Mark, that's my running joke. Like, I know Caleb's on the right side, but remember Left Shark from the Super Bowl that was doing his own thing. So that's why I would call him Left Shark. But I know he's on the right side. But for me, it's like with Caleb McGarry, he's got to show and prove. I think that's where it kind of starts and stops. And I guess too, unless you go out and miraculously get a J.C. Treader, I think at some point, Jalen Mayfield, Matt Hennessy, one of you, please step up and show us that you are a starting center in this league.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jarvis.
Yeah. So, I guess I got to mention his name since they're in the quote unquote position battle. Drew Dahlman, that's Terry Fontenot's guy, right? And because it was funny, like when we started talking about what we're going to talk about, get into it for the show. I just start going back and looking at some of the draft picks, the Falcons draft, right? It's like, man, Thomas Dimitroff didn't help Dan Quinn out defensively. Man, he didn't help him out on the offensive line. Like, wow, they just stunk. And I think that, I think Drew Dahlman has to, dog. We're talking about validating picks, right? You talk about Richie Grant defensively. I think Matt Hennessy Drew Dahlman has to win this battle in order for Terry Fontenot's pick to be validated. Because if it's not, like, because Matt Hennessy is not that good. Like, I don't want to bury him too. I want to bury him too quickly. But you know what I'm saying? I don't want to bury him too quickly. But I think Drew Dahlman has to win this battle, and we know that that's just how the NFL works, right? If you can't block nobody, you're gonna be giving up 40+ sacks like you've done in the past few years on this Falcons offensive line, and this is the same line from last year. Yeah. So well, we got to start there first. Before we start talking about Kyle Pitts and targets and stuff and Drake London. Can you block? Yeah. Can you average 4.2 yards a carry? Those are my questions coming into the season.
It's going to be
or can you get into a third and short situation and the ball doesn't have to be thrown? Like, can you help to move the chains from that? And check that, guys. Yes. That was Drew Dahlman. I know I said Jalen Mayfield, but when I was talking about Matt Hennessy, I meant Hennessy and Dahlman. So just check that.
And by the way, this may be the first time in about 14 years where on third and short, throwing the ball is more of a liability than running it. But that may be a different conversation for a different ATL hangout on another Friday. So that does it for us today here on this Friday. I appreciate you guys joining us. It's been a lot of fun. This won't be our last ATL hangout here for all the shows on Locked On Sports Atlanta. We hope that John Chuckery can return from his abyss with Kirby Yates. In truthfulness, John had some computer problems, and so the miracles of technology have failed us here. But he's part of our ATL hangout, and we appreciate you guys supporting Locked On Sports Atlanta. Again, continue to subscribe to YouTube, share all the content you see online, tell a friend about all the shows here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Don't forget about our Braves postcast and Locked On Falcons and Locked On Hawks, all right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On ATL. So for Jarvis Davis and Tanisha Batiste and John Chuckery, wherever he has gone. We hope you come back soon. This has been our first edition of ATL Hangout right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. You guys have a great weekend. Take care. We'll talk to you next week.